Hello, I'm doing my makeup. So I wanted to just hop on here and do a little blah blah video for just a little bit. Again, mostly for myself. But if you're here and you're interested, I'm excited you're here. But basically, I've been pretty busy and stuff's been going on. But at night, whenever I've gotten the opportunity, when I have energy and I'm working on things or whatever, I'll pop an earbud in and I'll do, sometimes I'll listen to stuff. So what I decided to do was go back to my last pregnancy and the videos that I did. So just like a recap, this is my third pregnancy. My first pregnancy, I did not do any videos. I don't even think I had a YouTube. I was doing cooking videos on Instagram at the time. But yeah, so I didn't do any, I didn't document in that way. I documented the best that I could, like using a planner that I had. With my second daughter, and we'll just, this is not their real names, but I've always given them the internet names of, like, my oldest daughter is Grace and my second daughter is Marie. Okay, so they were both planned pregnancies. We had a try for them, you know, all of this kind of stuff. We started later. I had Grace when I was 30. I had Marie when I was 33. And so, you know, we were older, having kids. My husband's older than me and stuff. So we were like sort of older having kids or whatever. And so we had Grace. I dealt with some postpartum issues, and I didn't even know I was dealing with postpartum when I was. Postpartum depression, light, postpartum anxiety, heavy. You know, just different postpartum things that I didn't even know was hitting me until later. But Grace was born and she was like however many months old, and COVID hit. We had just started sort of coming out of some of the COVID stuff, and then my grandma was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Oh, my grandpa passed away when Grace was like 3 months old. There was a lot going on in life at the time, and it was very, very much. It was just so much. So fast forward, we try, we're successful, we get pregnant with Marie. I decide to start tracking things for myself for future me because I wasn't confident that we were not going to have a third. I was at that point thinking we probably would have a third, maybe. And I wanted to document better for myself because I had nothing really to go back on for myself other than my memory and like a planner from my first pregnancy. So I wanted to like do myself a solid. I'm really glad I did that, actually. And I've mostly been tracking this one for fun and for comparison's sake. What I will say is my videos are significantly shorter this time around than they were the first. I'm a very detail-oriented person, and I talked a lot in my second pregnancy videos. I created an entire playlist, labeled them. It's what I've done on this one too. And so what I've done the last like couple weeks, whatever, is I've gone back and like listened to whatever weeks, 30, 32, 35, like whatever ones. I've listened to a few of them. And I was very detailed in updating in these videos, which is a little annoying, and they were really, really long, but at the same time, they were beneficial for me. Listening to them was interesting because two things. First of all, I was getting the updates of the pregnancies, but I was also doing that where I was like, okay, with my daughter at this phase, which would have been Grace, it would have been my first one, I would put those things in there too, as much as I could off my memory. And I'm like 7 years in from that pregnancy, and it was interesting because there was a few things that I noted like in my brain that I was like, oh, like I had that timeline a little bit wrong, or I don't even really remember that so much. And it's just small little details that I find helpful in pregnancy today. And so, yeah, I listened to him, and it is interesting. I've known this pregnancy has been different from my other ones. I've known that. But it made me realize more how different in some respects it is, and then also the similarities that I wasn't even putting that together, and also timeline stuff, you know. So like for instance, I just listened to my 35-week update from my pregnancy with Marie, and I was talking about some mild and moderate swelling happening then, and I made it sound like it had just started. I've been having some swelling, mild swelling, for, you know, weeks now, but I've noticed an increase in my swelling now, and I'm 32 weeks. So I thought that was interesting. But again, I had some life stuff going on in my pregnancy with Marie. We were trying to get my grandma's house sold, get her moved. We had a sale. I talked about that in the video. Obviously, I remember it. There were some details, like I said, I didn't quite remember, but truly it was hard. That was a lot on my body. It was August. It was hot. I had a daughter that I was trying to take care of that was almost 3 years old. And being pregnant and trying to help my grandma get ready for a sale at her house. It was a lot. So, I don't know. You don't know if your body is just responding to certain things. I've mentioned this multiple times, and I mentioned it in that video too, but that's the other thing about the swelling. I was having a lot of pain. I'm uncomfortable now, for sure, and I've struggled with things. I've put those in my update videos about, you know, my hormones loosening things up and, you know, everything else. But I remember in my second trimester with Marie dealing with a lot of sciatica, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So I remember it being more of a trend in that pregnancy than really what I was talking about, I guess. But truly, I can say that, like in that 35-week update, I was talking about experiencing a lot of like kind of like bone displacement and things like that, which I've already been experiencing kind of a lot of in this pregnancy. But also, I was not under chiropractic care in my last pregnancy, where this time I am. I have found a chiropractor that I like and I trust, and she does a great job. I try to see her once a week. Sometimes I skip a week, but I know probably in the next few weeks I'm going to start making sure that I see her every week. Maybe even a couple times a week. I don't know. We'll see. But it was very evident to me in my 35-week video from my last pregnancy that I was experiencing a lot of pain. And like I said, I'm uncomfortable. I have some pain. I have some stuff. But I don't have what I had with my last pregnancy. I really don't. And I wasn't complaining in that video or anything. It's just, but it was very apparent to me. I could tell how, like, I was in a lot of pain. So, oh my gosh, this mirror is kind of actually broken. See that? It like won't stand up. And I bought this mirror to take to the when I had Marie, and then I decided I liked it, so I use it all the time, and now it's all broken down because my kids have broken it. And so I bought a new one to take to the hospital with me, and I'm like, I wonder if I'll just use that. I don't know. But anyway. So, something else that was really apparent to me, and the thing of it is this is something I kind of already knew, But in going back and listening to myself talk about what I was experiencing real time, what I was expecting, everything else in my life when I was pregnant with Marie, it really is wild, because I was so much more educated. I was so much more mentally prepared. Like, I will say, listening to myself talk 4 years ago, whatever it is now, I sound like a completely different person. I mean, I was brushed up on everything. I was prepared. I was as prepared as myself as a person could probably ever be to have a baby. And what I will say about with Marie, you know, I know hormones are crazy and everything else, regardless of whatever, after you have a baby. And there, you know, there's only so much you can do. But I can truly say that I was so prepared. And I was praying about a lot of specific things. And I can say I have prayed diligently about a lot of specific things in this pregnancy too. But I mean, I really, there was a lot of things. And I was so prepared. And I wonder if that's what helped me. Like, I know I did some silly things after I had her. I'm aware, like, nobody's perfect. But, like, I didn't have any postpartum depression. I had almost no postpartum anxiety. I'm not saying I had no postpartum anxiety. There was a couple of things that I had a lot of anxiety over, that I had to, like, kind of mentally battle through that a bit. But it was apples and oranges in postpartum experience for myself. I remember, I mean, I was literally so prepared for that pregnancy. I made myself like a ton of meals and froze them. I really prepared in every aspect. And I just feel like I did so well mentally after I had Marie, especially compared to Grace. And that's the only negative thing that I will say about going back and listening, is I don't feel remotely close to as prepared mentally for this labor and delivery, for this pregnancy, for this baby, for this postpartum. I don't feel anywhere as close as prepared. I don't feel as educated. I don't feel as, because I'm not in that world. And I think that's what it is and I've kind of been panicking about that even before I started listening. And that's why I started listening to my own videos and other videos when I get the chance. I don't really get a chance to listen to a lot of videos. But truly, I can say, like, I've been panicking about that, because I'm like, I'm not prepared to go in and birth a baby mentally. And I need to get there, because I feel like labor, delivery, and postpartum, it takes a lot mentally. If you want to be successful, if you want to be good, it takes a lot mentally to prepare. And I really need to be pouring more of myself into that, truly. Just to try to get ready. I think the reason that I was so that way is because I had one child. I had one experience to go off of. I was busy because I had a child. And I was so afraid that I would be so busy that I couldn't focus on preparing myself for birth. But also, I was working from home. If you go back on that playlist and you look, you can see, like, what I would do is I got like a certain amount of allotted, like, break time per day. And on the days that I would do an update video, I would use that break time for the update video. And on my other days, I would use my allotted break time to clean my house. So I stayed up on top of my house more. And I was able to do those things to make room for other things in my life. And then while I was working from home, because I was working from home doing computer work, I could sit there with my earbuds in and listen to midwives and all of this kind of stuff and like really focus on getting myself prepared. Where at this time I am not working an office job from home. I have my kids every day. I've been trying to homeschool. I've been trying to keep them involved in their activities. I've been trying to like keep up with everything. And so there's not a lot of time for me. There's been no time to sit and prepare. This baby also wasn't necessarily planned. So I, even myself, I had wanted a third child, and my husband had said no early on after having Marie. And if anything shook me postpartum, that was it. I had a really, really tough time mentally with being told no about having a third child. So I spent like 2 years trying to just accept it and put everything in boxes and pack it away and like really try to leave the baby phase of my life. And it really genuinely took a lot of packing up and a lot of acceptance and a lot of, you need to accept that you're not having any more babies. And I had a hard time letting go of Marie as a baby. Milestones made me really sad, stuff like that. I had a hard time letting go. Okay, but then I started letting go. And I started accepting. And I started being like, okay with only having 2 children. I started being okay with only ever having daughters and giving up having a son. I started being okay with being a mom of older kids and leaving like the baby phase behind. So mentally, that was where I was getting. I wasn't always like perfectly on point with that, but mentally that's where I was getting. And then I got a positive pregnancy test. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it was a boy. So I just think God's really funny. That's just what I think. But I think that has messed with me. It's messed with me because I've had all this time that I'm leaving that. And so now trying to step back into this role, I don't feel intimidated by it necessarily, but that's why I feel like I'm less prepared also, because my brain left all of that. My brain left pregnancy. My brain left labor and delivery. What happens and why, and not that you lose like your knowledge on it, but some of the nitty-gritty parts, I feel like some of the nitty-gritty parts of pregnancy that are difficult and they're taxing on your body, that sometimes takes that mental strength to go. Because I was even in that video, there was a lot, I'm like, I'm just in so much pain, but I'm like, it's okay, because a lot of other people are experiencing a lot worse pain. And I would always think about people with like chronic illnesses and everything else, and it was always at me in my brain, I'm like, this is happening. This is why it's happening, because I've educated myself to know how the body works and when the hormones change and this and that. And so this is why this is happening. This is what I'm experiencing. And this is a pregnancy thing. And at most, I'm this far away from my labor and delivery. And at least I'm this far away from my labor and delivery. That's going to be excruciating and painful, and I want to do it naturally, so I'm preparing to endure that kind of pain anyway. But for all of these wonderful people that are out here that have chronic pain all the time, it's not a pregnancy thing. They're not going to get away from it. It really, like, that's what I mean about the mental aspect of it. I could push through. I could do whatever else while I was experiencing a lot of pain, and I feel so much weaker. in this pregnancy because I experienced pain, discomfort, exhaustion, all of that. And then part of me is like, well, it's just so much harder the older that you get. And I think that that is true. But I also think that I am mentally weaker than I was in my last pregnancy because I really built on that. I really worked as I was working at home at my job and I would pop these earbuds in. I would mentally be working on my state of mind and my endurance and all of that kind of stuff. Now I'm so busy and that like exhausts me more, but I can't pour into myself and prepare myself. And I really think that I do genuinely in this pregnancy have a mental battle going on because of that. And I've always thought that this whole pregnancy, I've always kind of thought that. But going back and listening to myself talk, I was like, wow, you go, girl. I wish I had you here now. And I don't have her. She's in 2021 or whatever, 2021, 2022. She gone. She's not here. So, and that's just how it is. But I am trying to become more prepared. I was looking back and now I can't remember. I haven't listened to it yet, but I did a What's in My Hospital Bag video. And I think that I did that one earlier. I must have done it around 31, 32 weeks, which makes sense that I would have done that. This time, my goal, and I hope I don't regret it, but this time I feel a little more confident. And I think that my goal is to have my hospital bag packed within that 34-week mark. I might be pushing it a little bit, but I feel all right about it. And so I'm 32 weeks now. So within the next 2 weeks, my plan is just to be gathering my things. And then my 34th week, I want to put it all together and have my hospital bag packed. 34 weeks. It's still earlier than a lot of people do it, but there's a very good chance that this baby could go preterm, which is fine. Like, I don't know. I'm trying not to freak out about it, but also there's a good chance that this baby could go full term. Well, I packed my hospital bag as early as I did last time, and you know what? It didn't hurt anything. Nobody was out anything. The bag sat there longer, but it was no big deal. So that's why I'm like, I would rather be more prepared than not. So I feel like leaving that window of having it packed in the 34-week mark, I just feel better about it. So if anything comes up, if anything happens, if I get caught in a situation like 45 minutes away from home, somebody needs to grab my spare key and come in and just grab my stuff, it's all ready. It's not a big deal, you know. With my first daughter, I did not have my hospital bag packed. At 35, almost 36 weeks when I had her, it was not packed. I was going to pack it when I was like 37, 38 weeks. And it wasn't packed. And luckily for us, that time we birthed in the hospital in our town. So my mother-in-law just would come in and she grabbed like what I did have ready to go, or she would go find, like, we would have to tell her where something was and she would go find it. But really, I think what that was she came here and she got stuff for my husband maybe. And then my husband came back another time. No, I don't know. He didn't leave me. So maybe she did come get everything. But it wasn't together. And we got what we needed. We got essentially my hospital bag. We ended up probably getting more than what we needed and other stuff not what we needed. And we got all of our stuff up to the hospital. We stayed there for 5 days. And we got all of our stuff up there in like 3 different rounds. So trying to pack up and leave and bring all that stuff back home, it was a nightmare. It was not good. It was not enjoyable. And that's why, like, since then, I'm like, I do not want to get caught like that. And also, I'm not just in town this time. I'm 45 minutes away. And so I'm like, I don't want to get caught like that. So that's my plan. I feel comfortable with 34 weeks. I think that's my decision. And as I said, trying to get the house ready and stuff, I still have more to do, but I'm feeling comfortable with at least where our living spaces are at. I have some, like a little bit of tweaking to do, but on the whole, it's getting downstairs and getting all of that taken care of. And people can call that nesting. It's fine. Maybe that's what it is, but I just feel like this has gotten out of hand and I haven't had the time, energy, or wherewithal to be able to actually get on top of this. And I'm resetting the clock. I'm resetting the clock of having that infant and the littles, and it's just harder. I mean, I have a little now. I have a 3-year-old. But I can take her into an area that I'm working and it's a little bit chaotic and she's kind of undoing stuff that I'm doing, but I can do it. It's not like having an infant or even then a crawler that's getting into things they shouldn't be, and it's different. So I'm resetting the clock. So I'm like, if I'm going to do it, this needs to get done like now. Otherwise my house is going to sit the way that it is another 2 or 3 years probably. So that's what's tough. And what was interesting too is I had mentioned in a video that we got to, like, I don't remember if it was week 35 or what, and then my husband started freaking out. And I'm waiting for that. I remember that, and I'm waiting for that to happen because my husband is as cool as a cucumber this time. When we found out, he was not cool. He was like, oh my gosh, But he's been cool. I think he's like feeling seasoned and he's like, whatever. We are overwhelmed sometimes with 2 kids. And I think sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, 3, what's that going to be like? But for the most part, he's as cool as a cucumber. But he does talk about infancy and sleepless nights and everything. But it was interesting to hear myself talk about that because I will say Grace was a hard baby. She cried a lot. I'm sure she had colic. I'm sure I needed to take her to the chiropractor more often. Maybe I wasn't feeding her enough formula. I don't know. I can speculate all day. I just know that child woke up every 2 hours until she was 1.5 years. And then she really stopped taking naps, and just getting her down for naps, fighting her through all of it, fighting her to get her down for bedtime. It was all really hard, really mentally taxing, really difficult for both of us. But see, so he started freaking out, which is understandable because that was tough. Then we had Marie, and Marie was like, she was a super easy baby. That child, my breast milk dried up because that girl would not wake up hardly in the night to eat. 1 time a night. She came home from the hospital waking up 1 time a night. And that was it. Now I would try to wake her and I could not wake her up. And when she woke up to eat, she didn't scream and cry and fuss. She just had her way of letting me know. And eventually when we went all the way over to formula, we would just go out in the house and we would hang out until everything was warmed up, and it was very easy. Now she's a tougher toddler. I've heard that a lot. If you have a really easy baby, or if you have a really hard baby, they're a really easy toddler, and I would say that checked with my first one. If you have a really easy baby, you have a hard toddler, and that's probably checking more with my second one. She's not really gotten more difficult, I don't feel like, until 3. Some people are like, oh no, as soon as they start walking, they're hard. She was a lot to keep up with in one way, but like, she wasn't that hard, I don't feel like, to deal with until she turned 3. And now, like, I'm in the trenches for sure, and doing it pregnant. And yeah, not fun. But she's a great kid. She's a great kid. It's not that. But I mean, so now I think maybe that enables my husband and I to both be like, we'll see how this one is. Maybe he's going to be somewhere in the middle. That would be great if we had like a typical but somewhat easy baby, typical somewhat easy toddlerhood. We hope. We pray. You know, that's the thing. So I just wanted to kind of compare and contrast and just do like an update of where I'm at after having like listened to myself. I'm super grateful I did those videos for me. And again, if you're here, I'm really excited that you're here. I'm glad that you're here. You can ask me anything that you want. You can give me advice. You know, the comments are there. Feel free to drop a comment. You can criticize this weird thing in my ceiling. I don't blame you. It was a repair that was done, and we just haven't had construction in here to get it all. We have plans. We have plans, but plans take money. You know what I'm saying? And like, there's so much to do in this house that we're just like, let's live with it until we can get it to that point. We had doors and windows replaced this year, and I think next year we're working into the living room, and that'll be like monetarily somewhere between the doors and windows and what this bathroom is going to be. So it'll give us like a little bit of a break on the budget, because there's stuff to do for sure, and it's going to be a pain in the neck to like live here and have all that done. But I think this is going to be another expensive room, so we're going to get there in the next few years or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, we have that, and it just is what it is. I could get up there and spackle, but why? No one sees it. I mean, except for the internet. But it's because I'm putting it here. I just don't care. You know what I'm saying? I just don't care. We'll get there. We really will. We have to figure out what to do about this. If you have any advice, we have this crazy window right above our sink. We have a double sink, and I want a great big mirror. And we just haven't hung this mirror. It's an old one that I got from a resale shop for $10, if you can believe that. That was $10. There's a lot of crazing on the mirror, which is fine. That's actually a cool feature, except for when you're trying to like see your face. You know what I'm saying? So we're just making do right now, but I just said we'll get a big mirror and hang it there instead. And then my husband's like, then you're covering a window. I know you can take a window out, but we have like an issue with finding like siding. So then that runs into, are you going to totally re-side the house? I don't know. We got to figure that out. This room is going to really suck to do. I'm telling you, it's going to be bad. So anyway, thank you for joining me on this rambling video. I'm almost done with my makeup. I should have been done a long time ago. I just kept talking. But we're going to go get a pickup order, and I'm going to make some dessert for Father's Day. And we've just been taking it real slow today. Real slow. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.